Hello everyone and welcome to our next video lesson. This one is titled Section 2.2 and 2.4 Equations of Lines. What's happening here is the next 3 days we're going to talk about these two sections, 2.2 and 2.4. It's a review topic that you guys have had before. Lines is something that you dealt with a lot in intermediate algebra. We're going to cover it again in advanced algebra because it is very important, as well as we're going to build off of these topics as well. So we're talking about equations of lines today, tomorrow, and the next day. So let's quickly get a review from geometry about what a line is. So I'm going to draw a line up here. A line doesn't have any curves in it. It is absolutely straight. And one important thing is that a line goes on forever and ever and ever. A line segment is what comes to a stop and what starts again and so on and so forth. But equations of lines, there is no start and there is no stop to a line. It goes on for an infinite distance. So there's no start and there's no stop. The point slope form is the one that we're going to talk about first. It's y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1. And our slope intercept form is y equals mx plus b. You're probably more familiar with this one. It rolls off the tongue nice, y equals mx plus b. With this point slope form, sometimes you might hear me say this: y minus the y coordinate equals m times the quantity x minus the x coordinate. The reason for that is because I'll tell you when we talk about what these variables mean. Let's break it down by what we probably know first. I'm sure you guys all remember what m is, or if you don't remember, I'm sure it'll come back very, very quickly. M is another way of saying slope. So the slope of a line, how steep is it, or how shallow does the line run, so on and so forth. Another way that we say slope is we say it's the rise over the run. So how high does it go compared to how far to the right does it run? A way that you find it on a coordinate grid is you would take y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So you subtract the y coordinates, you put that in the numerator, subtract the x coordinates, you put that in the denominator. That's how you find slope, and that is what goes here, and that is what goes here. Next one, let's talk about this letter B right here. Once again, maybe some of you remember. If you don't, I'm sure it'll come back to you quickly. B is the y-intercept. So whatever number that is where it crosses on the vertical axis, that y-axis. So that is what the letter B is. It's where it crosses the y-axis. So now we have this right here, the letter X and the letter Y. The letter X and the letter Y. We don't put in numbers for these, class. They represent, please write this down, they represent every ordered pair. So on a line, there is an infinite number of ordered pairs. Here's an ordered pair, here's an ordered pair, here's an ordered pair, here's one, here's one, here's one, and it goes on forever and ever and ever, and it never ever stops. So there's an infinite number of ordered pairs, and X and Y represent that. So make sure you know X and Y represent every single ordered pair. We don't put in numbers for them because there's an infinite number of them. So that's X and Y. So the last ones we have here are X1 and Y1. These are a specific ordered pair. So X1, Y1, they represent a specific ordered pair. So on this line, you might have this point right here, and this point is right 5 up 3. I'm just making up a number, okay? So all of these red points are X and Y. They represent every ordered pair. But that blue one right there, that is a specific ordered pair. We know what it is. It's 5, 3. And that, my friends, goes in for this number and this number. So X and Y represent every ordered pair. X1, Y1 is a specific ordered pair. And I shouldn't have put represents. It is. It is a specific ordered pair. That is what X1, Y1 is. Now, let's talk about standard form. It is ax plus by equals c. There's a couple things that you should know about standard form. There are 3 main rules. The greatest common factor must be 1. Okay? So if you see something that looks like this, 2x plus 4y equals 8, You have our a value as the coefficient in front of x, so 2 is our a value. by, so b is our coefficient in front of y, which is 4. And then c is another way of saying our constant term. It's the number that's all by itself with no letter on it. It is 8. What we need to remember about this is that the greatest common factor must be 1. So all of these have a factor of 2, not a factor of 1. So we can divide each thing by 2. When we divide each of these by 2, that's how we get x plus 2y equals 4. So on a test, if you answer this, I will give you some credit, but I won't give you all credit because it's not the correct answer. This is the correct answer. So divide everything by 2. Another rule is that the leading coefficient cannot be negative. If you have this on a test, a negative 3x plus 4y equals 7, your leading coefficient, the letter A here, that negative 3, is negative. You cannot have that. It's very simple to make it positive. All you have to do is multiply everything by a negative 1, or basically you change the sign on every term. So now it's a positive 3x, a minus 4y, and a negative 7. This is correct. The top one is incorrect. So on a test, make sure that leading coefficient is positive. Okay? That letter A, AX, that coefficient, that letter A, has to be positive. And the last rule when it comes to standard form is coefficients must be integers, no fractions or decimals. So if I see this on a test, I will mark off points because that's not true standard form. Okay? Being that all of these are in the tens place, you can just move each one over a decimal point, and voila, you have 5x plus 15y equals 7. This way, once again, is the correct way. Oftentimes you see fractions with this, like 0.5x is the same thing as saying 1/2 x. 1.5 is the same thing as saying 3/2 y. 1.5 and 3/2 is the same thing. That equals 0.7. 0.7 is the same thing as 7/10. You might see something like this, and you can't have fractions in standard form. So the way you get rid of all these fractions is you multiply everything by the least common multiple of the denominators. So look at your denominators, 2, 2, and 10. What's the least common multiple? What is the least number that all of them go into? And that is the number 10. So 10 times 1/2 is 5x. 10 times 3/2 is 30/2, and 30/2 is the same thing as 15. So plus 15y, that equals 7/10, which is the same thing as 7. 5x plus 15y equals 7. 5x plus 15y equals 7. So if you have a decimal, you just move over the decimal point. If you have fractions, multiply everything by the least common multiple, and there you have it in standard form. Very, very important. We'll be going through those problems as we go. So let's talk about number 1. Write the equation of a line with the given information. On our notes, it wants you to answer in point-slope form, slope-intercept form, and standard form. So the first thing we always do is we always go point-slope form first. The reason for that is because most often you have a point and you have the slope. It just makes sense. It's in the name. If you're given a point and you're given the slope, let's use point-slope form. Most basic one. So y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1. Y minus the y coordinate. Here's the y coordinate. So it's y minus a negative 3. That equals our slope, which is given as a negative 2. Sorry about that, class. A negative 2 times the quantity x minus the x coordinate. And the x coordinate here is the number 2. You see how this is a specific ordered pair? So that goes in for x1 and y1. X and y represent every ordered pair, so we don't put any numbers in for those ones. So this, my friends, is our point-slope form once we make this into y plus 3, because y minus a minus 3 is the same thing as y plus 3. So y plus 3 equals a negative 2 times the quantity x minus 2. Here is answer number 1 that goes in the first blank for point-slope form. So now what we do is we just change this into slope-intercept form. We're just manipulating the variables. So slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, which means we have to get y all by itself. The first thing we do is we get rid of the parentheses, so let's distribute this negative 2. So we still have y plus 3 on the left side. That equals a negative 2x, and a negative 2 times a negative 2 is a positive 4. And finally, we want y all by itself, so we have to get rid of this positive 3 right there. The way we do that, obviously, is we subtract 3 from both sides. So our answer is y equals a negative 2x plus 1. And this, my friends, is your answer for slope-intercept form. Y equals negative 2x plus 1. Our slope, negative 2. Our y-intercept is a positive 1. So now let's put this into standard form, and the way we do that is we get x and y on the same side, and then with the constant on the right side. So let's get this negative 2x off to the left. And the way we do that is we add the 2x's. So putting them over here. So we get 2x plus a y equals, now this 1 is by itself on the right. Let's look at this. The greatest common factor is 1. No fractions or decimals, so we're good there. And that other rule was the leading coefficient cannot be negative. And is our leading coefficient negative? No, it's a positive 2. So this is your answer for standard form. I expect you to know how to do all of those things and manipulate those variables to get the type of form that we want. You guys use this to try problem number 2. Pause the video, try number 2 on your own. Alright, here's what you should have got. Y minus 1 equals m, which is a negative 1/2, times the quantity x minus the x coordinate. So x minus the minus 3 is x plus 3. Here's your first answer in point-slope form. After doing that, you should have gotten slope-intercept form. So let's distribute that negative 1/2. Y minus 1 equals a negative 1/2 x minus 3/2. So then we have to add the 1 to get y all by itself. Add 1 here, add 1 here. Y equals a negative 1/2 x. A negative 3/2 plus 1 is a negative 1/2. So this, class, should have been your answer for slope-intercept form. And then finally, we have to get this sucker into standard form, which means x and y both have to be off to the left. So let's get this negative 1/2 x to the left by adding 1/2 x. So we get a positive 1/2 x plus a y equals a negative 1/2. We can't leave it like that, though. Hopefully fractions now are just screaming at you in the face saying, I can't be left in the answer. So if we have fractions, we have to multiply everything by the least common multiple of all the denominators, which is the number 2. So multiply each and every term by 2, and we got her made. So 1/2 times 2 is 1x. Plus 1y times 2 is 2y. That equals a negative 1/2 times 2 is a negative 1. So this, class, should be your answer for standard form. X plus 2y equals a negative 1. Hopefully those two are easy enough. Number 3, we have a little bit of a different one here. It passes through, we have our equation that passes through a negative 2, negative 3, and a positive 3, positive 2. So usually we have our point and our slope, and thus we can use point-slope form. Right now we have no slope. We have 2 points, no slope. So what the world are we going to do? We need slope. If we need slope and we are given 2 points, hopefully something rings a bell. We can find slope. Slope is found by taking y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Well, if I need to find point-slope form, I have a point, I need slope. Let's find the slope. So we're going to call this x1, y1, x2, y2. Our strategy here is finding slope. So we're going to take 2 minus a minus 3, 2 minus a minus 3, over 3 minus a minus 2, 3 minus a minus 2. And we have ourselves 5 over 5. Our slope is now 1. So if I want to put into point-slope form first, I know that my slope is 1, and I can use either one of these 2 points in this equation. It doesn't matter which one you use, you're going to get the right answer for both of them, as long as you use that slope. So let's do it to it. Y minus the y coordinate. So let's use this point just for the sake of consistency. Everyone use this one. Y minus a minus 3, so y plus 3, equals m, which we found to be 1, times the quantity x minus the x coordinate. X minus a minus 2, so x plus 2. And this is our first answer for point-slope form. Let's change this into slope-intercept form. Let's get rid of those parentheses. Y plus 3 equals 1 times x is x, 1 times 2 is 2. Lastly, let's get this y all by itself by subtracting 3. So our answer here, y equals x minus 1. Here is our answer number 2 for slope-intercept form. Answer number 3. Let's get standard form. So subtract this x to get x and y on the same side. So a negative x plus a y equals a negative 1. This negative sign right there should be screaming at you saying, I can't be there, I have to get rid of it. So the way we do that is we multiply everything by a negative 1. Or I change the signs on all of them. I have to have a positive coefficient in front of my x value. So now it's a positive x and a minus 1 equals a positive 1. Because I multiplied everything by a negative 1. And there's my answer for problem number 3. X minus y equals 1. You guys try number 4 on your own. Once again, you're given 2 points, you're not given the slope. Pause the video, try this one on your own. So we have our slope being a negative 6 minus 5 over 3 minus a minus 4. We have ourselves a slope of a negative 11 sevenths. A negative 11 sevenths is our slope. So now we're going to use this slope, and either of these 2 points, we'll just choose this one, it doesn't matter which one we choose, to put it into point-slope form. So y minus the y coordinate equals m times the quantity x minus the x coordinate. Here is answer number 1. Answer number 2. We have to put this into slope-intercept form. So y minus 5 equals, I'm going to distribute that coefficient, a negative 11 sevenths x minus 44 sevenths. And then finally I'm going to add 5 to get y all by itself. So y equals a negative 11 sevenths x, a negative 44 sevenths plus 5 is a negative 9 sevenths. And there is answer number 2. So answer number 3 is to get it into standard form, which means that we need both x and y on the left side. So let's add this 11 sevenths x to both sides. So we have 11 sevenths x plus a y equals a negative 9 sevenths. I can't have this as my answer though because I'm left with fractions, so whenever I have fractions, I got to get rid of them. Multiply everything by the least common multiple, which is 7. So multiply this by 7, and that by 7. And we're left with the answer of 11x plus 7y equals a negative 9. 11x plus 7y equals a negative 9. And there's our 3 answers for problem number 4. We'll finish here with problem number 5, and that is it passes through the point 2, 1 and a negative 3, 1. So I have 2 points. I need to find the slope first. So my m equals y2 minus y1, so 1 minus 1, over a negative 3 minus 2. 1 minus 1 is 0. A negative 3 minus 2 is a negative 5. 0 divided by any number is just the number 0. So my slope equals 0. We're going to go through this in class, but when my slope is 0, that is going to be a horizontal line that goes left and right. So to be honest with you, class, if we look at this one, a horizontal line is just y equals a certain number. And what is my y coordinate? My y coordinate is 1. So for my point-slope form and my slope-intercept form and for my standard form, they're all y equals 1. Y equals 1. Y equals 1. You could put that in for all of your answers there for problem number 5. Y equals 1. Okay, as you're doing your accelerated math, sometimes on your A, B, C, D options, even though you get this and you did everything correct, for some reason Excel math does it wrong. So if they somehow have this, it just means that they multiplied everything by 2. So times 2 times 2 times 2. So this is wrong for us because our greatest common factor should always be 1. This time it's 2. I don't know why Excel math does that. It's dumb. But just so you're aware of it. They also might get the constant on the left side equaling a 0 over here. Again, we don't like that as much. It's not proper standard form. But they might have any of these three as part of their A, B, C, D options. They will never have all three of those, one being A, one being B, one being C. It'll just be one of those as one of those options. So make sure you're aware of that as well. Be sure to let me know if you have any questions, class. I'd be more than happy to answer anything that you might have to share with me.